Welcome to the Living Faith at Home podcast. This podcast is designed to inspire and encourage you to follow Jesus and live your faith at home. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us at the Living Faith at Home podcast. Pastor Victor here. In today's episode, we talk to Dr. Sara Pasnau about the lessons she's learning during this time as a doctor, wife, mother, and follower of Jesus. Hello, Dr. Sara. How's it going?
Hi. Good.
Good to see you.
Nice to see a real face.
Kind of.
Not a mask.
All right, so I'm talking to folks just about like lessons they're learning, things God's teaching them, things they're learning in their own heart and in their families and stuff like that. How's it going for you, and what are some of those things that you're learning right now?
It's going okay. I think for us, the beginning of this was really chaotic in terms of work demands, and that has plateaued and leveled out a bit, and we're just like kind of doing the new normal now. I think I've learned things about myself in both my professional life and my spiritual life, and both have been interesting and valuable. And I guess for me, it's been easy to see some of the blessings in disguise in this situation. So I think something that I've wondered why about in terms of spirituality is like I felt no fear this whole time. And I mean, I haven't felt fear in terms of my kids or running out of food or getting sick and dying or contracting coronavirus. Jacob, please step out. Right
Love
now.
that. Love it. Love that.
That's the new normal.
Are you working from home?
I'm working from home. I'm teaching Jacob at the same time as talking to patients, and it's working out fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes I play backgammon in between patients, and it's super awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't been fearful at all, and I have thought a lot because I see my parents. My dad's not fearful, and I'm like, well, he's kind of not fearful because he just doesn't he's just like assumes he's going to be fine all the time, but doesn't really have anything to do with God. And I don't assume I'm going to be fine or that like nobody in our family could fall ill with this or have a serious complication of this. But I don't feel fearful. Like I don't feel fearful of the things I said before, running out of food, being sick, not being able to work. And I think some of that is that I like live in this fairly safe life. But also I think it's also coming from God. And I think I notice a difference in myself compared to other people about that. Like I have coworkers that aren't seeing their kids because they don't want to bring coronavirus home to their kids, or won't sleep in the same bed as their wife because they don't want to bring coronavirus home to their wife. And they're not any more or less healthy than I am, but they don't have God on their side that is alleviating their fear.
Yeah.
Praise music has really been helpful for me too. Just in like putting those positive, there's plenty of negative messages coming in.
Yeah.
And to have those constant positive messages coming in all day has been really helpful and comforting to me.
Yeah. Has there been like an emotional toll? I mean, like dealing with people coming in that are sick. And I mean, you told me one time you were like working at the outdoor respiratory tent, which is like, ground zero for people that might be coming in with stuff like that. I'm not afraid, but like, is it emotionally draining?
The emotional toll hasn't been so much like fear or dramatic illness or the uncertainty piece, like this is so new, we don't know all the answers. That I think can create an emotional toll, but hasn't for me. The emotional toll for me is like the number of demands more, like the pace that we're changing things and making new plans, and the amount of questions per day, or like the amount of questions I answer the same question in the same day. That has been the emotional toll. So I think I've had to be really intentional about like taking a break and refreshing myself before I step back into parent role and wife role. So yeah, the illness part hasn't been the emotional toll. It's more just like the speed of change and the amount of demands per day.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what are your hours like right now? What do you?
My hours are, well, so in the beginning of all this, I was like on the computer, extra hours all the time, Saturday, Sunday nights, like every day, for like Skype meetings and phone calls and surprise phone calls. But it has leveled out a fair bit to where I'm probably only doing extra time 2 nights a week and not on the weekends now. And then otherwise my work hours are the same amount of hours. They look a little bit different than they used to look. 2 of the days are from home doing phone visits with patients, and then some meetings by Skype or Zoom or whichever. And then 2 of the days are in the office. One of them is seeing patients face to face, like regular routine stuff. And then one of them is working in the respiratory tent.
I feel like so the governor of Rhode Island this week started talking about like outlining like the phases of reopening. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, we're already talking about reopening.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's a weird like response, but I feel like it's been a very sobering time, like thinking about like my life and my pace. And when they started talking about like an end in sight, I'm like, wow, did I make the most of it? Now we're like getting back to, to quote unquote normal. And I know that's going to take a while, and whatever normal is going to be, we don't know. But I'm personally trying to sort out like, what do I want to take from this about my relationship with God and about like who I am, that I don't want to go back to the normal person that I was before this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You got any of that? You got anything that you're like, I've learned this, and whether it's something you're grateful for or a certain just way you're looking at things that you're glad you learned and you don't want to go back to how you were before this?
I think probably several months ago you preached a sermon about busyness, and this has been a mandatory pause on some parts of busyness, like the extracurricular things you can fill up your calendar with, and you're running all over the place. And I've really it's been really lovely to have our calendar just wiped out. I know not everybody feels that way, but I've really liked it. And being home with our kids all the time, as much as there are some parts of that are intense, but there are some parts of it that are great also. So I really liked that. And I think I have been really intentional about reading the Bible, which I plan to do all the time during regular life. And I tend to do it sporadically, but I've been really intentional because I know that and praise music are 2 things that help me kind of recenter and calm down and focus on what's important and stop dreaming about coronavirus. So music and reading the Bible have been 2 things that I've really liked during this time, and I want to hold on to them, post-COVID.
Yeah. I feel you on that pace thing too. Our kids are both in the same karate school, and I really like not having to go to karate, because it literally is like another one of those things. It's like you come home, you do the next thing, do the next thing, do the next thing. And I'm glad that the kids do karate and soccer and all the rest, but I definitely want to rethink how many hands I got in how many pots, because just coming home at the end of the day and being done for the day and staying with your family and not going out again is nice.
Yeah, and having karate happen in the basement instead of a 20-minute drive away right before fellowship when someone's trying to cook dinner and people are coming in the front door. It's been a really nice, a nicer, slower pace where they're still being enriched, but in your very own home.
Yeah. All right. Last thing I'll ask is the last time we met as a church in person, you came up and kind of gave a good word of encouragement of, it's all right, guys, we're gonna be all right. And not that you were downplaying anything or weren't predicting, what ends up happening. You were just giving us some good medical guidance and spiritual guidance too. What would you say to everybody now, like with where we are now in light of the next few months and weeks? What do we need to know from from your perspective, through the filter of God and the Bible, in light of the next, couple weeks and months?
It's really interesting to think about that moment, actually, because I know we talked a couple of days later, and you were reassuring me that, even though I had changed my mind, I hadn't misspoke previously, because at that point I was speaking with the information that we had.
Sure.
And I think I have found over the last several weeks that in a lot of occasions I've had to speak with the information I have, even though it's not all the information, and it might even change tomorrow, which is an uncomfortable place for a lot of people to be in, where I'm giving advice or making a statement based on incomplete information. Like, nobody likes to be wrong. So maybe that's been a lesson, that like some uncertainty is okay, and we can take our comfort knowing that like uncertainty in this world is less important because we have certainty in God and Christ. And I guess the other part of your question was kind of, where do we go from here? I guess I've gotten pretty, in this short period of time, like it's a short period of time compared to our whole life. I've gotten comfortable with uncertainty and knowing that the plan will change tomorrow, which my personality is not one that really likes that kind of thing. But it, like, by necessity and demand, it very quickly got very comfortable. And so I guess that a takeaway for me would be knowing, I'm stealing the expression from maybe you, who you are and whose you are, when all the other stuff is stripped away. So that I've taken a lot of comfort in that. And I think, whatever the governor says, it's a best laid plan, but we're not going to know the outcome of her plan until a couple weeks after her plan. And then the plan might change. I think that has to be okay. And there's so many debates about who's right about masks and who's right about the concentration of alcohol in your Purell. But ultimately those, they don't matter. We're all just, and all the guidelines that are out there, like, we're following them to the best that we can, but all we can do right now is the best that we can, and know that all the detailed information that we rest in this world it's only our best guess, but really God's got it. And like, he knows. We don't know, but he knows.
Yeah. Amen. All right. I said that was the last question, but I have one more.
Sure.
Your 10-year anniversary is Friday. What are you going to do to celebrate?
Well, it's probably going to be something really fancy, like eat pizza and put the kids to bed late because they don't like to go to bed early, and fall asleep on the couch.
That sounds about right. 10 years in, that's about what it is.
Yeah, we plan to go away, and my parents are going to watch the kids, but we'll do it later.
Yeah, awesome. Well,
but I got Bill a really cool present.
What's that?
I got Bill a really cool present.
Don't tell us what it is. I don't know when it's
later.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, thanks for talking. Great to see you. And I appreciate you taking the time to share with what's on your heart.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Living Faith at Home podcast. If you'd like more information about Living Faith Christian Church, visit us online at livingfaithri.org.